Hi, my name is Xavier Fisher, and I was born in 1977 in Prince Albert. Um, do I remember what I thought when I first heard about the virus? My first thoughts about it and seeing it on the news was that I hope that this is not going to spread anywhere, was probably my first thought. Um, uh, when did my life start to change as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic? And in what ways did my everyday life change? Um, my life started to change immediately when it was declared a pandemic and a state of change was implemented in my place of work. Uh, it was refined. Focus was all the focus and attention was put on COVID-19 due to the line of work that I do. And a week into it, I already had to isolate for 2 weeks because of the possibility of exposure to somebody having had it. But I was fine. And then also extending from that was the fact that my children live with their mother and her parents, and both her parents are high risk, as well as my daughter. She's a severe asthmatic, so immediately had to discontinue any contact with them, which was and still is very difficult. Uh, but that's where I'm thankful for technology, um, because I don't know what I would do if I wouldn't be able to even talk to them. It would probably be close to being unbearable, to be honest. Um, and everyday life changed as well because I was immediately into the practice of utilizing PPE, social distancing. I only and still only go out if absolutely necessary. And another moment too was the fact that I had to decide where I was going to choose to isolate. And I was in between places, and in the midst of that, people weren't exactly excited to be showing places for rent, and I didn't want to deal with that additional stress. And so I just chose to isolate back home in Duck Lake. And it's been beneficial for the most part for myself. And but the downside to that is that utilizing the space that I'm in right now to do work when it's my after hours space, my writing area, my art studio, my happy place, and so that's taken a toll because it's affected the amount of time that I am able to actually enjoy this, and this is the only way that it works. Um, so those would be things that it's just altered the way I function on a daily basis. And did I use culture, heritage, traditional knowledge, and traditional practices in any way throughout the course of this pandemic? Yes, definitely did. How? Just with my prayers, smudging regularly, just doing what I practice regularly. Those ways. I'm a Michif man, but I practice predominantly Cree ways because those are the ways that I was taught and how I learned. And a lot of the old people that I spent time with and helped were Cree. And just having those knowledge systems and belief systems already in place have made it easier to accept the reality that exists now. And as well as in my immediate portfolio at work, we have medicine men, we have cultural systems advisors, we have knowledge keepers, and people that are extremely knowledgeable. And so we've been a very communicative team. You know, we're constantly discussing different things and sharing ideas and just supporting each other mentally and emotionally and spiritually. So right from the beginning of the pandemic, we were able to access medicines that our medicine man down south prepared for us for protection against COVID. And just having the opportunity and the access to that, very fortunate from my perspective. And I've isolated for a second time from the first time that I mentioned, and I was also working in an area for a week where it was high risk area, and I'm still healthy. So my belief system's very much intact, and it is very much a part of who I am. What lessons for the future may come out of this experience for you? So I'll answer that first. It's kind of a three-part here, but lessons. I think mentally and psychologically, I was already prepared and ready for something like this to take place. That's why when I initially heard about it, my reaction wasn't shock and disbelief. It was just something that was already plausible and something that has happened numerous times throughout our time on Mother Earth. So if anything, it's just made me even more, I guess, aware of the fact that things can change in an instant, and no matter how prepared you think you may be, or perhaps even are, there are always other steps and precautions that can be taken to allow you to function even better through something like this. And then for my family, well, I have families, is how I see it, because I have my children, and they're with their mom and their environment with their grandparents, and they're my children, and by extension their mother and their grandparents are family as well. So their best interests are always at the forefront for me, because they take care of my children. If their mother is healthy, their grandparents are healthy, they're going to be healthy. So being, adamant about, things that need to be done and how they need to be done, and staying safe, and their mother is like that as well. So I'm comfortable and confident with the fact that I know that all precautions and necessary steps to stay safe are going to be taken. And as I mentioned earlier, the downside is not being able to see them, but I would much rather all of them be safe than not. And that means keeping myself away and in limited time interacting in the driveway visits, which have been very few and far between, but that's how it is. My siblings and my parents, I think maybe it's ignorance on my part because I was knowledgeable and aware of just how serious this pandemic was going to be and has been. But the steps and necessary precautions I was taking were being taken on their part, and at times I don't think was really considered as a very serious thing. And, you know, at times I would have to stress as to why things were done and why you couldn't do this and why you needed to do that. So I hope going forward they realize that safety and keeping yourself limited to the amount of interaction that you have to take with other people for a period of time is necessary. I think now they've gotten it, but they need to ensure that they have the same attitude when and if it happens again. My community, well, I'm never really back here much, and I still do limit any interaction or participation in the community, just for the simple fact that I've been away for so long. But to the best of my knowledge, nobody has been positive here in the community or on the res, and so that's a good thing, because with the res in town, it's over 3,000. In the rural community, it's close to 4,000 people, and that are interacting within this area, throughout a daily basis. So that's good. And I don't, other than people working in a couple of the stores, I don't see anybody around town wearing PPE. But that's that's choice, and everyone's been lucky so far. And I think it's going to take somebody getting sick in a community of this size for people to react in what they see at the moment as an extreme reaction. So what lessons for the future may come out of this experience for society as a whole? That's a great question. You think of all these adages of history repeats itself, and people forget so easily, and we write our own future. And the thing is, all of these things are true, and I want to be as optimistic as possible, because I think the world we live in right now could be a lot better. I'm also not anticipating some renaissance and we start to live in some utopian existence, because that's unrealistic. But I really hope that change does really begin. And we're seeing little instances of change, but those are proxy results, because they weren't and aren't directly related to the pandemic. It's things that have transpired during the pandemic. One could argue that they are an indirect result, and things that have transpired and taken place with what's gone on in the world, without getting into what's gone on in the world, are related to the state of things now because of the pandemic. So lessons are being learned, but I think the necessary game changers, the people that can make things happen, you know, are the ones that are going to forget the quickest and ignore the quickest and are pushing the most to have things returned to normal. And I'd rather hear about things being returned to normal than the new normal, because it's just a matter of what is normal. Just it needs to have effective change in the hearts and minds of people that can make the change, because no matter how strong the grassroots voice is, the people, the individuals within society that want to see change and are pushing to have it implemented and are knocking on the doors of these people that can make things happen. If those people aren't willing to make things happen, they won't, and it's all for nothing. And change needs to build upon change. So I hope, by the few things that have happened that are starting to go in the right direction, things need to build upon that. But democracy is a work in progress. For anybody who ever thought that democracy worked, then you truly didn't comprehend and understand the way that is supposed to work. And we live in a capitalist system, a capitalist democracy. So when you're dependent upon the things that keep your capitalist system going, there's really little room for change. And when people are used to something, they're the ones that say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But it's not broke to them because they're benefiting. And as long as the people who are benefiting are the ones that can make change, then we're not going to see any. That's why it's so important for us to prepare our young people and have them see the benefits of what the world could be. And in 15 to 20 years, when they're all in those positions of change, they don't forget what they wanted when they were younger. So I don't know if that directly or gives a good direct response to that in terms of lessons for the future, but for me, it's thinking so much more beyond just preparatory measures that a place can take for the next pandemic or the next thing or something that will threaten humanity's normal everyday functions. So, if anything, people need to take a second and really look and understand that Mother Earth is sick, and she's going to find every and any way to show us that she is. And as long as we continue to degrade her, we'll be punished for it in some way. And that's a sad thing. So that answers it.